My name is Bonnie Aleshire. I have been with the firm for 19 years, most of which I've been a QuickBooks Pro advisor. And I'm also the accounting services supervisor in our Chambersburg office. Almost forgot there for a minute what I do. So also with us, we have Kendra Barnhart.
Hello, everybody.
Kendra's been with the firm for about 1.5 years. She is very, very well versed in QuickBooks and is in the process of getting her Pro Advisor certification. So she is going to start taking the lead on some of these user groups, but I got y'all on this one. So let me see there will be a survey at the end of the meeting that you guys will receive. That helps us to kind of gauge how helpful the information was, and also to use some of that information to create the next user group or come up with an agenda for the next user group. So just be aware that you will be getting a survey. We would really appreciate if you fill that out. That helps us out quite a bit when we hold these. Kendra is going to be keeping an eye on the chats. Just a reminder that when you send a question, you can do it through the chat, but please be sure to include everyone so they can see the question as well. Kendra's going to keep an eye on those, but again, just make sure that you do it to everyone so they can see the question, and I will do my best to answer that. And Kendra's going to kind of tag team me with that. So
before you get started, if everybody could make sure they are muted so we don't have the background noise, please.
Yeah, we had a little bit of background noise on the last one. So
yeah.
You are welcome if you want to chime in and ask a question rather than putting it through the chat. By all means, just unmute yourself and ask a question. I do not mind that. I know a lot of these webinars, they don't like people to do that, but I'm completely open to that. So please, by all means, feel free. So what I've kind of done is taken, well, let me start here first. So this is going to cover a couple questions. So first, I want to talk a little bit about the changes with QuickBooks Online, some of the things that have been going on. If you are with, or if any of you are currently in QuickBooks Desktop, that program, and I know we have a couple, that program went to subscription based last year. So if you would have gotten QuickBooks Desktop 2022, you are paid an annual subscription price for that. So, and that will continue. We used to be able to offer discounts on that, and we can no longer offer any discounts on the desktop software. So that's just a good hint that they're trying to get everyone to move to QuickBooks Online. So there's a couple different versions of Online. Of course, there's Simple Start, which is more like a checkbook. There is QuickBooks Online Plus, which is kind of the basic, the Plus or Essentials. Actually, I'll bring this up for you. So there is QuickBooks Online Plus, which is the basic, okay? Then there is QuickBooks Online. They don't have Essentials on here. There is an Essentials, and there is QuickBooks Online Advanced. I think Essentials is actually the bottom of the barrel. The Plus is the one everybody likes to use because you have class tracking in that. So there's a couple more features in QuickBooks Online Plus that you don't have in the QuickBooks Online Essentials or Simple Start. Some of the main things that I think about are the class tracking. Let me see, what else is there? There are a couple. The class tracking, all of them include managing 1099s. I believe job costing. No, job costing is in Plus, but it is not in Essentials. That is another one. So keep that in mind if you don't have something in the current version. So if you're running QuickBooks Online Essentials and you don't have something that you need in that program, a feature, you can upgrade to the next version. So Plus would be similar to Premier on the desktop version. Now you also have QuickBooks Online Advanced, which they came out with, but I think what, 2 years ago, Kendra?
Yeah, I believe so. It's fairly new.
Yeah, that is equivalent to the QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise. That is their cream of the crop, full-blown online program. That has all the bells and whistles. It has extensive amount of user controls or administrative controls over the users. You can set up roles for the users and then assign those roles to different ones. So there are a lot more options for giving access and restricting access to different areas of QuickBooks. So QuickBooks Online, if you have not signed up yet. So of course, each one of those versions comes with a price. And since we are a pro advisor with QuickBooks, we have the option to offer wholesale billing to our clients. So if you're on this call, you're considering moving to QuickBooks, and I know there's a couple, with regards to getting a discount off the list price, you would have to contact us first, not go out to QuickBooks and activate the subscription, or not go out online and activate the subscription, but contact us so that we can initiate the subscription for you. That is how we get you on our wholesale billing plan. And that wholesale billing is 30% off the list price. So for QuickBooks Plus right now, I believe it's $85 a month. Whereas for the wholesale billing price is $58.50. So that savings adds up. So just be aware of that. So if you're looking at switching over to QuickBooks Online, and this is more of a intro kind of information, then please, by all means, reach out to us so we can work with you and get you set up on wholesale billing. The other,
Question, please.
Uh-huh.
If we already have a online subscription, is it possible for us to still take advantage of the discount through SEK?
If you are with another accounting firm and you come, well, no, you can't, because you would have to be on their wholesale billing. So if you're with another accounting firm and you decide to come to SEK and you were on their wholesale billing account, you can be switched to our wholesale billing account. But if you are currently paying list price for your QuickBooks Online subscription, we cannot pull you into our wholesale billing. That's why I put a word of caution out there before you go out to online and attempt to establish that subscription or purchase that subscription. By all means, please reach out to us first, because we have to establish that. Sorry, I've had a cold for what seems like forever.
So let me clarify that, because I recently switched to SEK for accounting services. So I am your client, but again, I previously held the subscription, right, through my business, not through another accounting agency.
Right.
So it sounds like I'm out of luck.
Yes, you are. Unfortunately, you are. We would not be able to pull you in to the wholesale billing plan.
Thanks.
Sorry, not my rules on this. Trust me, definitely not my rules. Okay, so something else that I wanted to mention. We have many clients that run more than one company, especially municipalities. I have one that has 12 different company files. So you may have a real estate entity and your personal, or you may have a real estate entity and some other type of entity. You know, you could have multiple company files. In that situation, for your main company, which is what they call your parent company, you are going to pay, if you go through us, we can get you on the wholesale billing, set you up with the parent company with wholesale billing at the discounted rate. Then each additional child company, so each additional company file that you want to set up would be $10 per month, but there's some stipulations here. So hold that thought. So that promotion only runs through January 2023, which means if you sign up before the end of January 2023 through our wholesale billing account, we could set your company files up for you, more than one, the parent company being at the discounted list price, the other additional companies at $10 a month. And that $10 a month will run for 2 years. After the 2 years is up, so that would happen through 2025, but then at the end of the 2 years, those additional companies go to the regular list price. So you are getting a good, super good price for those additional company files through, for 2 years. But just to make you aware of that, I just found out about this promotion last week. But that is the only thing they are offering at this time. So that's just to give you a little bit of insight on all the things going on with QuickBooks online. They are always improving the program, making changes to it. I can remember about 5 or 6 years ago, I'd have to grit my teeth to work with payroll at the end of the year, or to even have to go into QuickBooks Online because it was very green. It needed a lot of work, but they have come a long ways with this program. And there are some features in here that are phenomenal, and we'll talk about those.
Bonnie, we do have a question in the chat. I'm assuming this is referring back to the pricing. Does that include transferring over the desktop data?
So we would, when you establish a QuickBooks Online file, yes, we can transfer over your data. If we do it, of course, we charge for our time to do that. Not a big undertaking, not a huge time commitment, but we do charge for our time to convert your data. We have to check the file, make sure that the data can be converted because there are some restrictions. The other thing is you can, by all means, convert the data yourself. I mean, once we set up the file, you can go in and pull the data in yourself. There's a couple of things that you need to know going into that, but it can be done either way. We just have to definitely check your data, like I think it's the parameters of the file, your list size, and there's something else and I can't remember what it is. The fragments or something in the file. It has to be below a certain amount, but we can talk about that when you go to establish, but there is a list of stuff we like to look at before we attempt to do that conversion, or even have you do the conversion if you want to. It's pretty seamless.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, once you start, you establish a connection with QuickBooks, tell it, the file that you're going to convert. QuickBooks kind of takes it from there. You do the link up right there and QuickBooks takes it and lets you know when it's ready. So it's pretty cool like that.
Yeah.
Thank you. So there was another one. Okay, so converting, that was one of the questions that we had. So I'm just making sure, and I'm focusing on your all's questions that you sent through initially before I get into some other stuff. So let me see. I'm going to take a look at what other questions we have before I get too far into this. Buying, training, transferring data. Okay, so I talked about purchasing QuickBooks Online. As far as training is concerned, we are happy to do training. It is something, again, that we do charge for that service. And I will be honest with you, within 2 hours, you'd be surprised at what we can accomplish. I do a lot of these calls, these training calls via Teams, just because it saves travel time. It's more efficient for everyone around.
Mm-hmm.
So I do like to do those trainings. We can share screens via Teams or Zoom, and you guys can see what we have going on. And we can just walk through all the things that you need to know, and we can help you as you're moving along with how to record transactions. And that way you've got something in front of you that you can actually work with. So I think that's the best way for training. We also have these user groups, of course, which are free, and I do think they're helpful. We get a lot of good feedback on them. One of the other things I'll mention is in QuickBooks, and I'm going to share my screen. Let's make sure. Excuse me. So hopefully you can see my screen here. One of the things that is really nice. Can you see my screen?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, thank you. One of the things that's really helpful is this help with right within QuickBooks Online. Their help screen in here is really good. It was the same way with desktop, but now every time you search help in desktop, it automatically defaults to online. So the help screen is great. The other thing I will mention, and I will show you here real quick, is Intuit has an amazing YouTube channel that offers videos, tons and tons of QuickBooks Online videos. See if it'll bring it up. There are tons of videos in here to show you how to do the various activities in QuickBooks. And there is a gentleman named Jose Garcia, excellent trainer with Intuit. His videos, again, run like 2 or 3 minutes long, and it'll say right there what the video is about, you know, how to enter a check. It lasts 2 or 3 minutes. He walks you right through, super easy. You can stop it when you need to stop it and start it back up. But his videos are really good. He is a super good trainer. So that resource is out there, and that is something that I refer a lot of people to. And I actually go out and use it myself when I'm trying to figure something out. You know, unfortunately, we do not have all the answers to everything, and have to kind of figure some of these things out as we go along as well. Okay. So we've kind of talked about training, buying QuickBooks, transferring of the data. So let's kind of dive in. One of the things I want to talk about is, I love somebody says, I must know all things about all things. I love that. That was great. Let's talk about a couple things that are going to require some specific settings. So one of the questions we had was about generating budgets within QuickBooks Online on something other than your regular year. So there is only one way to do that. And of course, this is where our gear icon up here, here's where all your settings and all that is. So if we come over to our accounts and settings, and you have to bear with me, this is a sample file and it can be a little persnickety sometimes. So that's the best word I can use for that. So if we come over here to the advanced, and this is where you're going to find most of your detailed settings in QuickBooks. The one up here where it talks about, where's it at? First month of your fiscal year, it's right up top. First month of your fiscal year, okay? Let's say it's July. That is, then once you select that, that is what your budget will be based on. It's based on your year. So if you're July to June, and that's what you have set here, when you open up your budget window to enter your budget, that's the time frame that's going to come up. That is the only way to change it. So if we change it back to January, you're going to have January through December when you go in to do the budget. So you can't have your books on one base, on like a fiscal year, and have your budget on a calendar year or vice versa. So that definitely has to be what you have here. All right, a couple of things I will mention in here. You know, I talked about classes, and that's an excellent way to track the various segments of your business. I use that a lot for clients that are using that have real estate entities and they have multiple properties. You think of construction is another, where we have commercial construction versus residential. So all the, you know, something where you want to be able to see the income and expenses on the various segments of your business. And that's what that is going to do. So if you want to use class tracking, you have to turn it on in here. Just you click this little pencil over here. We're going to click yeah, and you can simply turn it on here. Okay, the other thing I wanted to mention, in addition to budgets, that somebody else had asked about was projects like job costing. You must have QuickBooks Plus or Advanced in order to run job costing, but QuickBooks Online does offer that. And remember, we're in under the gear icon, and I'll go back to this just so everybody's clear as to where we got to this. You go to this gear icon in the upper right corner. You're going to come over to your account and settings, and then you're going to click this advanced. That's where you get into all the different settings for the program. So right here where it says projects, if you come in and turn this on, and you notice it says organize all job related activity in one place. And until you turn this on, you will not see projects come up in your menu bar. So if we turn this on, hit save, then hit done. And I don't suggest, if you're changing something in there, I don't suggest exiting out because it will not save the changes you made. So we're going to hit, now I've got, let me turn classes on too, so we can take a look at that at some point. So I'll hit save here. And then I have got my job related activity in one, and I'm going to hit done. Now, if you look over here on the left toolbar with regards to projects, there they are. You can click on that, come in, and have the option to start a project. Now, there are some tips and resources down here that'll kind of guide you along the way, give you some additional information. This project or job costing can get pretty detailed. So I would definitely take a look. It says track income, cost, and profitability by project. So take a look at that, because you're going to find that's going to have some tips in there that's going to help you get the best information you can out of the program. So I would definitely recommend using those resources down there that they give you. And it even has a little video here that will walk you through. It'll kind of give you a visual of what it's going to do for you and what it's not going to do. So take advantage of these videos. But if we go to hit start a project, this is where it's going to come up, and we are going to do new upstairs bathroom. And the customer is going to be Amy's Bird Sanctuary. We won't put a starter end date. Project status is in progress. You will notice you've got not started, in progress, completed, or canceled. And then you can add any notes that you need to in here. Now, this is the information just on the project. Remember that it's not the information on the customer. This just adds the project under that customer. So if we hit save, so now it gives you your project at a glance, and this is pretty cool. So if we click next, you can follow the money, whether it's doing estimates, generating invoices from those estimates. You don't need to do estimates, but you can. The expenses and bills. And then it goes about how time is being spent, and you can, if you're running payroll within QuickBooks, can allocate your time that way. And then this will give you different project reports, time costs by employee or vendor, what's unbilled at this point that you can bill, and an actual job profitability report, which is probably not going to pull anything up, even if I try. And then one of the nice things about QuickBooks Online, if you're not already using it, is the ability to attach receipts and invoices directly into QuickBooks. You can do it with desktop too, but what they have in QuickBooks Online is phenomenal. There is an app that you can load on your phone that will allow you to take a picture of a receipt and send it into QuickBooks and attach it to document. So that's what this is going to allow you to do. You can upload your contract documents, you know, any agreement you have with your customer for the project, whatever documentation you need, and hit next. And then it just does to keep organized, and we'll just click done here. So a lot of information about job costing. It can get very involved, but this system can provide you the information you need. That being said, there are a lot of apps. If you need more, there are a lot of apps. And I'll show you down here on your side toolbar in apps, it says find apps. And you can come out here and search by job costing. Government Connect. They've got all our timesheet, all job tread. I mean, you can search up here by what you're looking for. There was one I could not find this morning for someone, which was fleet management. There are a ton of them out there, but it just didn't come up. Now, the important thing to mention here is the apps that you have here are QuickBooks approved apps. So that means they are tried and tested to actually work with QuickBooks Online. So just be aware of that. Some of these companies out here doing software, I'm not saying they're going to connect up and integrate with QuickBooks or not, but just be aware that, you know, there are some out there that don't connect up quite so easy. But these are all apps that QuickBooks has tested. I do have a couple clients that are using HubSpot. QuickBooks Time is another one that's used a lot, and Bill, which was in the past Bill.com, which we have clients using. That's something else that's a nice approval process. Now, these are your premium apps, deeply integrated apps and add-ons for QuickBooks Online Advanced. You'll notice Bill.com is down here for the other programs too. So there are a lot of options here for apps that will, as Intuit tells me, that will, what's the word they use? Help me out here, Kendra.
Integrate, is that the word you're looking for?
No, when I spoke to them last week, the one thing they said was that you can use apps to enhance your online
experience.
Experience is how they put it to me. So I love how they put that out there. I have seen some of these work and they work pretty good, but yeah, it's to enhance your online experience. So anyway, so a little bit about the job costing there. So hopefully the one that was asking about the QuickBooks Online job costing, I hope that helped. Let me see what else we have here. We're going to talk about 1099s, and we are going to get into reports. something I want to show. Somebody asked a question about, is there a way to toggle between reports and have multiple open at once instead of having to start over each time? Well, I'm going to show you this nifty little feature. Okay, if I was to come up here, and I'm going to close out this stuff. If I come out up here at the top of my screen and right click, okay, on my tab, and I hit duplicate. Now I have two QuickBooks screens open, two QuickBooks online screens open in the same place. I'm in the exact same place in both. So what I can do here, and we use this all the time. So let's say I come over to reports and I am going to run a balance sheet. Okay. And then I am going to come over here and I'm going to go to reports. So each one of these windows is going to run independently of one another. But there's something important I got to tell you about this. So this is January through November. What this allows you to do is open up a report. I'll open up another one, duplicate. So let's say I am in, bear with me here just a minute. So I'm in the P&L in both this tab and this tab. So let's say I need to go up here and fix a transaction. So in this screen, I can come in and I can change this transaction. Okay, I think. Nope, I can't. Hold on a minute. Sorry. It must be. So let me go down here to automobile. This will work. So I can change this to another account. I'm just going to change it to the main account and I'm going to save and close. So it's going to come out. See, it just came out of here. Now, if I go back over, if I go back to report summary, it's not in there. Shouldn't be. It is in there. No, it moved to the other account. Now, but if you go over here and look, it is still there. What you have to do is refresh this screen. So when I just clicked on that for it to open up, it refreshed. So you have to make sure that when you're in these screens and you change, and this is why I like this. So I can run a profit and loss and see what I need to do, but then, oh, well, wait a minute, I've got something in the wrong account. I can click in here. I can change the transaction that I need to change, come back over to the, but when you come back over to the other screen, you have to hit refresh, whether you click run the report here or whether you come up here and just hit your refresh button. You have got to do it to all the screens that you have open. So just be aware of that. But this is a way to open multiple screens at the same time. Where I find this nice is if I'm in working on invoices and I need to cut a check real quick. Someone comes in and needs a check. I can come over here and go to my new check. My reports or my invoices will stay open in this window. Whatever I have on this one will stay open in that window, and I can do what I need to do here on my check. So that should make life a little bit easier. In QuickBooks Desktop, it tends to, and this was something that we struggled with, genuinely struggled with, was in desktop, you're very used to where the screens kind of layer one on top of another. Well, that can be good and that can be bad. It can be good because you can work in multiple windows at the same time. It can be bad if you don't close them out before the end of the day, and the program is going to try to open all those windows that you had open the day before. You're not going to have that situation here. The thing you're gonna have to remember is to come over to each one of those tabs that you're working in and refresh it, either run report or do the little refresh up here on your bar. So hopefully that will help a little bit. Okay, so I am looking at your all's questions. How do I add other companies to my account? We did talk about that. And also we're going to talk about generating reports. I got a couple things, other things I want to go over first, but I do see a lot of the questions about reports from you guys. So the next thing, two things I want to talk about before I get into the reports. Kendra, can you think of anything else at this point that I'm missing?
No, I think you're doing good. Definitely having the multiple windows open is a huge help, especially when you're trying to compare. Job tracking is something that's come a long way in QuickBooks Online.
Absolutely.
So,
actually, there was a couple things different in there when I just went in.
yeah, that's what I was
seen
thinking. I was
before.
like, I don't remember seeing that before.
Yeah, once you turn it on, but it's come a long ways. And that's, that's something that's really nice that you need to keep in mind. In the past with QuickBooks Desktop, if you worked in that before, you had to wait until they did a release, and then you had to do an update, and then you had to restart your computer. Well, QuickBooks Online, the benefit to being in that program and in the cloud is they're working on it all the time. You never have to reboot your computer. You never have to worry about doing an update. But what you do have to worry about is coming in one morning and going to look for something, and it might be moved, or it's going to look a little different. But there are always pros to that. So just be aware of that. But yeah, the job tracking, the project tracking, that there's a couple different features in there that I hadn't seen previously. So just keep that in mind. You are always on the latest and greatest of the program. Okay, so I want to talk about, and it's something I do every time we have a QuickBooks Online session, is the banking. And I have to tell you, something that I was so cautious about previously is by all means, absolutely one of my favorite features in this program. It is amazing. So the ability to link up your bank accounts and have your transactions pull in for you, especially, a lot of you small business owners, you know how to run your business. Okay, nobody's going to deny that your business, but do you have time to sit down for a couple of hours a day, or do you really want to spend your weekend entering all your financial data? My first guess is going to be no. So by using the online banking features in here and having your transactions pull in and automating payments to vendors, like doing ACH payments to vendors and your credit card transactions, rather than having to enter them, all you would have to do is post them and tell them where to go in your chart of accounts. What category is it going to go to? Now, that being said, once you hook up your bank accounts and or your credit cards, typically what they do, if you've not used this before, typically what it does is it updates at the end of each day, and it'll pull in the transactions that have posted since your last link up. Now, when you first turn this on, I will tell you that it usually pulls in the last 3 months of activity. I don't know that you can turn that off. It's going to pull it in, but if you've already got that activity recorded in QuickBooks, you can just simply exclude it from posting or duplicating in QuickBooks. All right, so the way and I will make a mention of this. If you are using and try to link up an F&M trust account, F&M has two types of accounts. They have a business account, which is the business platform, and then of course the personal account. when you go to link up those accounts, it is two separate F&M trusts. When you hit this link account and this screen comes up, you have to think. So you have farmers, no, wait a minute, F&M, or it goes down. F&M Trust. Forget how it showed up.
Say, isn't it
Had
just
this with
F&M?
somebody else.
Yeah,
Okay, so this here, F&M Trust, PA Business Banking, that is the business platform. And then I believe this Farmers and Merchants Trust is the personal platform. So you have to make sure of what you are linking up. But yeah, that's the business banking. And it specifically tells you, and you have to make sure you hit the PA, because there are F&Ms all over the place. But just be aware that there is a difference between the personal account platform and the business account platform with them. Okay, so once you link up the account, then you can do this update, but it'll automatically do that each evening. And it'll tell you here, once they get done spinning, it'll tell you the last time it's updated. You may get an error message every now and then. The bank may require you to do an update on your password every so often. The amount, the number that comes up here when this little thing quits churning, there will be a number that comes up here. That is the number, indicates the number of transactions you have down here that you need to address, that need to be posted or need to be dealt with. This is the bank balance. This is going to be your balance in QuickBooks. So you want those to be very, very close at most of the time. Usually the difference is if checks have not cleared the bank yet, but you've already recorded them in QuickBooks. You will notice down here that there are items for match, to match, and then there are some that say add. Now, what I want to caution everyone on, and which is one of the main reasons I went here, if you are generating invoices, customer invoices in QuickBooks Online, okay? So you come over and you have got customer invoices. You must, and I cannot emphasize that enough, you must come in and receive the payment against the invoices in order to clear them out of your accounts receivable. Then, once you have done that, let's see if I can just do one. Once you have done that, it's not liking me very much right now. So I don't know if there's any, okay. So let's say for Amy's Bird Sanctuary, I am going to receive a payment. I can put my check number in here. Let's say it was a check, a reference number is 123. I received $239 and I save and close. So what that does is it clears that invoice out of your accounts receivable, showing that Amy doesn't owe you, Amy Sanctuary doesn't owe you any more money. Then what you need to do is come in here to bank deposit. And click on the checks that you are taking them to the bank and on the deposit slip. And you need to come in, check mark it. This will pull all the information in that you selected in the receive payment. And then you can hit, this is the total amount of the deposit. Make sure it's posting to the right checking account for the right date. And now you're going to hit save and close. So what that does is it clears your invoice out of AR. Okay. It clears it out as showing as if you are due money. And when you go to that bank deposit, it's actually taking it and adding that to your bank balance. Now, did you notice here that amount, it was 1,200, I think. Now it's 1,440. So, it was 1,201, and now it increased it because we did that bank deposit and posted that transaction. Then what happens is you would see in here, the next time you upload or the account links or you come in the next day, you're going to see a deposit in here under received, and it should say matched. What happens if you don't follow that process? And this is only if you generate invoices out of QuickBooks. That is the only reason that this becomes an issue. If you're generating invoices to your customers out of QuickBooks, you're receiving payments, you have got to make sure that you follow that process. Otherwise, you're going to end up duplicating income. Okay. The bank, let's say you have a deposit that you're taking to the bank and has 5 checks on it. If you don't receive the payment against the invoices first and do the bank deposit, it's never going to match up, because in QuickBooks, it's going to see 5 different transactions, and it's not going to match the total deposit coming through at the bank. So my point being, just please make sure that you follow the proper process with that, because it can definitely make a difference. I have spent significant amount of time, I think Kendra and I both have spent significant amount of time cleaning up duplicated income. Once we realize what's going on, then we know that we've got some cleanup to do. It'll make your bank recs a whole lot easier as well. Okay, so these numbers here are the transactions that need to be dealt with. If I click on this, you see I have 1 transaction. If you've already posted something and you don't need to add it, or you don't want to add it, let's say, okay, I've received the payment another way. I don't want to goof this up. I didn't receive the payment against my invoices, so I'm just going to exclude this. So I can click on this transaction, actually, click on these transactions, and I can exclude them. I don't want to include them in my QuickBooks. So now if I come over to exclude it, you're going to see that I left them as excluded transactions. So you don't have to post them. Here would be your categorized transaction. So the reason I wanted to spend probably 15 minutes on this is, number one, this is a huge time saver for everyone. Number two, I want to make sure you're following the proper process on how to record those deposits. I also wanted you to understand how this can impact, keep you up to date with your balances, and just make your life a whole lot easier. So I realize we have a question.
The question is, if you receive the customer payments in QuickBooks, but don't record the bank deposit, can you use this bank feed screen to tell QuickBooks which customer payments were on that deposit?
The problem with that would be, okay, if I go up to new, because what's going to happen, well, first, let's talk about this. Receive payment. See how this says deposit to? I have it going to undeposited funds. I think default's there. So what that means is it goes in a holding tank until you go to bank deposit and group together all the checks that you're taking to the bank. You don't have to leave it to undeposited funds. You can change it to your bank account and have it post, and you don't have to use the bank deposit screen. The problem with that is, it still won't recognize it in this screen here, because that deposit had 5 checks on it. So what's coming in from the bank has 5 checks. and you have posted them individually, you would actually, it would make your bank reconciliation more difficult actually, because you're gonna have to match up bank deposits. You're gonna have to match up, when you go to do your reconciliation, match up the actual bank deposit coming through the bank versus the individual deposits that are gonna post to your checking account. So there is not a way, I don't think.
I think for further clarification, whenever you click the add button there on that line, like if she were to click the add by that $200, it's not necessarily going to connect it to the customer side of it. It's simply going to put that deposit like on a line in the bank register there. It's
Well,
not
let's
going to
test something.
connect.
Let's test something actually. So this is a good question.
Mhm.
Love it when we get good questions. Okay, so if I go new and bank deposit, I've got pool cars and Freeman Sporting Goods up here. So what if I want to see what it does if I select pool cars in here, and my category would be undeposited funds. You cannot post it to sales because your invoice that you generated in QuickBooks is already posting it to sales. So you don't want to do that in this screen if that's how you're going to approach it. But let's say we go to undeposited funds. I want to see if this will change it. So how much was this one?
200.
Oh, okay. All right, and let's say I click add here. What I would expect, select a bank account for this deposit. Well, that was kind of weird. Vendor, category. Oh, no, I'm in the bank account. And click add. So no, it's not going to let you.
I was gonna say it's gonna make you select an income account, I bet.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's asking for a bank account for the deposit, but I'm in the bank account. Please click on the rows below to see the transaction specific errors. Yeah, it wants a bank account. So I would suspect if I selected checking here and hit add, it would let me post it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
but
you
now you've
can't.
got it going in and out of the same account. Didn't affect anything here. Otherwise, and I've seen this before, if you don't handle it this way, so first off, it's not going to work in the online banking area to try to do that. Number two, it's going to make it difficult to reconcile. And number three, it does not clear this list out here. So as an example, one that I have been working with for about a couple of days now, there was like 2 years worth of these deposits sitting here where they had received them against invoices, but then they received them in through the bank deposit screen. I mean, through the banking download. So income was duplicated. I had to clear that out. And then I had to go in here and spend some time clearing out all these deposits sitting here because the undeposited fund account is just growing and growing and growing, and you don't want that. So, yeah.
That's
All
what
right.
accountant nightmares are made of right there.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So I did want to spend some time talking about this. Again, use it for your credit cards. Even if you don't want to use it for your bank accounts, use it for your credit cards because that stuff pulls in and you just need to come in here and tell it what account to post to. And that is just, that makes it so much better.
And that's really nice if you have like project managers out in the field who are just buying materials with their card, then, up, we go back to job costing, the next day how much materials were purchased.
Yep.
Without tracking down receipts.
Yes. The other thing that's nice, and I mentioned this earlier, is this receipts. If you notice in this banking center, here are the receipts. And what you will have is a list of receipts. Here, you can upload them from your computer. You can upload them from Google Drive, and then you can also forward them from email. So you use the app, you take the pictures or scan them to your computer, and then you can add them in this screen. And then you can attach them to transactions in QuickBooks. It doesn't get much better than that. I mean, it is absolutely wonderful. You've reduced the amount of paper. If you set your guys up, if you have a service industry, and Kendra hit the nail on the head, when you've got guys in the field, the receipts usually end up stomped on in the bottom of their truck floor, and they are never to be seen again, or maybe a year and a half from now, you might get them if they're even legible, but you can set them up with the app on their phone so they can just simply take a picture of the receipt when they get it in their hand, and then that way, it's irrelevant if it gets trashed or not. You've got a copy of it in QuickBooks and you can attach it to a transaction. So just a nice feature there. So I did want to spend some time on that. All right, so a couple things to talk about before, well, I'm going to talk real quick about 1099s. And let me get over here. I have to think about where I'm at. It's been a while since I've been in here. It's been a whole year since I've been in here to do 1099s. All right. So if I come in under expenses, click on my vendors. Here is where I do my 1099s. Okay. Now, what I want to tell you is the 1099s in QuickBooks Online is far better than it is in desktop. That is one of the features, other than the banking, that I love in this program. It is much, much easier to work through the wizard and all. So we're going to look at a vendor first. So we'll go to Computers by Jenny. And we're going to make sure that she is marked to get a 1099, because computer services are one of those things that you should get 1099, issue a 1099 for. So if we come into the vendor and we're going to edit them, we just click on the edit button. We want to make sure that their company name, their vendor name, and the name here is filled out, because I don't mess with you if it's not when you go to run your 1099. You're going to have to come back in and enter it. Same with the name to print on checks. Make sure those name fields are filled in. I always suggest entering as much information in this as you can, because it is a database. I mean, you can use this as it's meant to be. One of the things to note here is they do have a section here for attachments as well. If a vendor sends you a W-9, attach it right here in QuickBooks. Then you've got it. All the information in one spot. Down here is where you want to mark the vendor to receive a 1099. Okay. And we're going to do that's the right amount. You can also set defaults up if you want this to automatically go to office expense. Whatever floats your boat there, whatever makes sense, hit save. Now we've got them marked. We've got this Computers by Jenny marked to get a 1099. The other thing you need to do is make sure your accounts are mapped. But when you go into expenses and go to your vendors, we're gonna go back there again, come back up top to prepare 1099. This program is gonna walk you right through the process. That's not like me because my subscription isn't in, it's a sample company. So anyway, if we hit continue to 1099s, I hope it's gonna let me do this. Yeah, something's not quite right. So here's the information that you have to fill in. So we've got Craig's and all this information here, but anything in red is what has to be entered in order to issue 1099s. No. So we're gonna put the phone number in. And you notice it went out of red. The tax ID is going to be, oh gosh. Okay, and we're going to save there. It just doesn't like the invalid company address. Doesn't let me go further. Not going to let me go any further. Let's see if this will do it.
Say, what if you put in our address?
Thing's pretty stinking smart. Okay, then we're going to hit next. This is where, and this is really nice. This is where you're going to select the different payment types that you have. So it kind of does it for you. If you recall correctly, what was it, 2 years ago, there were it went from 1 1099 to 2 1099s. The 1099 miscellaneous, and you'll notice here, it notates on that royalties go in box 2, other income, box 3, medical payments, such as veterinary, goes in box 6, crop insurance proceeds, the withholding, and then up here is non-employee compensation. It's telling you where the stuff is going to go. The rents, these are the two most common, just like they say. So we're going to do this. And when you click that, it's going to want you to tell it what accounts. You have to mark what accounts. The ones that we see the most, accounting, because accountants, it's anybody that provides a service. Accountants, attorneys, engineers, those types of entities. Advertising, printers would be one. Anybody doing janitorial work, building repairs, providing those services, computer repairs. So these are all the accounts in your chart of accounts that you're marking. And this really prompted a lot of questions on the last session. We spent a long time in 1099s. But the way this program does it, it makes it so easy. It's not, you're not jumping around between multiple screens. Here you're in one screen and able to go in and select what you need. Now, legal and professional, I wanted to get to the office expenses. Okay, so let's say I've got everything marked. I'm going to hit next. Now it says, okay, review your contractor's info. So here we go. This is the one that I had selected. Her tax ID was in, her email, and I can add more, add from the vendor list. You can add them right in here. If this is all complete, then we can hit next. It takes us to the next screen. Let's see, it's not going to give me anything because I don't have anything in for this year's. Okay, this is what it should look like. It should give you your vendors here, the total payments, the amount that is going to show up on your 1099 NEC. And then if you paid that vendor more than what's showing up on the 1099 NEC, it'll show you here what's excluded and gives you the 1099 total. The same thing applies for the rent and the other types of payments that you do. So this screen is just super easy. And it will walk you right through. Now, you'll notice you can e-file, okay? There is a price. Or you can print and mail. Now, QuickBooks will do that for you, actually. I do not think they will mail to the state, however. So you will still need to print and mail to the state. But if you want to e-file everything, so it'll e-file with the IRS, it'll send the contractors a digital and paper copy. So they're going to mail and send them an electronic copy. And when it says we pay contractors with direct deposit, you don't want to mess with that. But anyway, yes, it will e-file and mail forms to your contractors for you. And just a note about this, you can pay your contractors via direct deposit, just like an employee in QuickBooks Online. It just takes a little bit of setup. Okay. So that was pretty quick to kind of jump through. How are we doing on questions? Wow. This is a quiet group, Kendra.
I know.
Okay.
We're really nice people.
So I want to talk a little bit now that we've gotten through 1099s. Folks, it doesn't get much easier than that, quite honestly. I can't think of a program that would make it easier to run your 1099s. I've worked with a lot of softwares, both in private and public accounting, and this is super easy. So take advantage of that. Make sure you are getting W-9 forms. You have got to make sure that you are getting them at least every 2 years. One of the words of caution is the penalties that the IRS will assess for incorrect information on 1099s, incorrect tax IDs or name and tax ID mismatch. You will see those notices come out about midsummer to early fall. And they want it corrected. If you do it 2 years in a row, you take the risk of getting penalized for not updating the information, having correct information. Vendors change addresses, they move, they change the entity type. So whether they're an S Corp or sole proprietor, single member LLC, those are the guys that are going to get 1099s. If it's an S Corp, or a corporation, they do not get issued 1099s unless it is attorneys. Threshold is $600. QuickBooks kind of does that work for you. Just make sure the IRS has a ton of information out there and is a good resource for any 1099 questions you may have. So please, by all means, reach out to the IRS website. I would not recommend trying to call them. And if you do, pull up a chair, because you cannot get through to the IRS right now. It is almost virtually impossible. So just be aware of that. More things we can do to make life a little bit easier, the better. One of the other things I wanted to mention before I dive into reports here is some other things that you should be doing in addition to getting updated W-9s and scanning them and getting them into QuickBooks. Updating your vendor information is also for your employees. This is the time of year where you want to get, and I know payroll is very, very automated in QuickBooks Online. There is only so much we can do in this program without having to contact QuickBooks to do it for you. But this is the time that you want to go in and make sure that you are checking with the employees. Give them a W-4, ask them if they, verify addresses. If you only have 1 or 2 employees, it's easy enough to update. If you have 30, 40 or better employees, the best thing I can tell you is to get W-4 forms out to them so they can update them and get them back to you before W-2s are issued and you find yourself having to reissue them. You want to make
Especially
sure,
since they changed that W-4 form in 2020.
yes, it is going to change their withholdings. So you're definitely going to want to keep an eye on that. Make sure that you are updating. And I know, again, I know we don't have a lot of that we can do in here, but if your employees have health insurance withholding, you're going to want to make sure that you are updating the withholding rates or health insurance. If the employee pays any, you're going to want to make sure you update that before your first payroll in the new year. So any changes to the withholding amounts for insurance or even 401k, I will tell you that there are new limits for your retirement plans. For some reason, I'm thinking that updates automatically in QuickBooks Online, but I don't recall, and it's not going to let me check in here.
And your Pennsylvania or your unemployment rates.
Yes, you're going to want to be able to go in and update your unemployment rates. Yeah, it's not letting me even get into the payroll area in here. It's usually in here, I'm pretty sure there's a payroll section. But just make sure that you're going in to take a look and updating the rates, the limits on your, because the limits on the 401k, what else, Kendra?
The IRA, and then the catch-up limits have also increased.
Yep.
I think it was 22,500 for like everybody. And then anybody over 50, the catch-up is up to 7,500.
Yeah, I thought you said 7,500 for the catch-up, which is nice. So just make sure that you're checking that stuff and you have those rates, those limits up to date before your first payroll in the year. Those are the kinds of things that you want to be doing sooner rather than later. Let me see, there was something else I wanted to mention. And they can't change what prints on the W-2 for local or
I would say we could
LST.
show them where to find that stuff, but
Yeah, but you can't even get into that section, so we don't have a lot we can do here. But just be aware of those things that need to be done before you get to the end of the year. I'd love to be able to take you in and show you, but we don't have the option to do that. Okay, so let's spend the rest of this time, I think, more or less talking about, we talked about the 1099s. And if anybody has any questions on those, push those through. But I do want to spend some time talking about reports. So some of the, two of the questions that we have are, one was setting up an automatic generation of standard monthly accounting reports. Okay, so let's get over here to the report center. Excuse me, I apologize. Okay, so going into the report center. So see these ones here with the little stars that are green? These are the ones that I click, and they are the ones, you notice they're green down here and they're up here as well. Those are what we call our favorite reports. So if there is a report that I run on a regular basis, those are the reports I want to come down here and check mark. Okay. Because you notice when I did that, it pulled it up here. It puts it in my favorites. So that's the one thing you want to do here. Make sure that you're getting them. These are the ones that you're going to use all the time. Especially when you go down a little bit further. Something for some reason, it was always difficult for me to find in this program is my AP aging summary. I always want to see my aging summary for accounts payable and accounts receivable. So if we go in and see,
I think it's, yeah, who is?
Yeah, AR aging summary. So that's already marked. So now it's right here for me. I don't have to go down here in the bottom and look for it, especially if you're doing employee reports. So you have employees here and you notice there's not a lot there, but it's down under payroll. There are more reports down there and it's all the way at the bottom. So if you do payroll in QuickBooks, make sure you put those little green, make sure that you make those stars green. Now, over here to the side, you can customize those reports. And you can tell it what you want it to do. Now, Kendra, I'll ask you this. Do you know if you do the customization, if it will save it?
You will have to memorize it in order for it to save.
Okay.
So yeah,
let's-
there's save customization there at the top.
Okay, so let's do profit and loss by class. Let's see if they have any. Okay. So let's say I want to do a profit and loss by class. I'm displaying it by class, customize. I'm gonna come over here and customize my report. I don't want to change. Yeah, I'll do prior year. And year to date. So you can change your columns. You can also do filters. So your filters are down here, just laid out differently. If you have a specific class you want to see, when I click it down here, it moves it up here above this line. So
You don't have any set up.
yeah, I don't have any set up. So I'm going to hit, you can also come down here and change your header and footer. So if I don't want to see, well, I've got it in the center. I don't want to see the report basis, time prepared or date prepared. And I hit run report. So now so now let's just say, this is just an amazing report that I just created. And I want to come in here and memorize it. So it's save custom, save customization. So this is essentially where you're going to set up a memorized report. It's in QuickBooks Online, it's called custom report. So I am going to do my P&L class, current year, prior year. And I can add it to a report group, or I can add a group. New group name. On each reports. And I can choose who I want to share them with, because it would come up. If I have another user in here, it would come up with their name and who I want to share it with. And then it would come up under their reports as well. So when I hit save here, okay, I've created that report. Now, if I go back, and something else to mention too, if you go back over here and hit reports every time, it's going, and it took me a while to figure this out. It's going to keep taking you back in. You got to select your report and da. Use this. It takes you back to where you were. It takes you back in the report. Now, if I go to my custom reports, there's my report. Here's my
Group.
Save it under there. So let me see. If I edit this, share, add this report to Bonnie's reports. Save and close. Now it comes up as a report under Bonnie's reports. Okay. Now I can come back in, select that report, and run it. It's the same thing. If you need to update this year to date, it will automatically default to this year to date. So make sure you have your date set. If you want it run for just last month, make sure you set that before you hit save customization. That'll be important. Otherwise, you're going to have to go back in here and change that over and over again. Okay. Anything else on this, Kendra, you think it's worth mentioning? When you change a report, don't forget you have to come up here and hit run report. Something on, well.
How to export it to Excel if they want that done.
Oh, here you go with your Excel. Anybody that wasn't on the last session, Kendra is like the Excel queen.
I like Excel, especially with, because I'm definitely more versed in desktop. So I can manipulate a report in online, but not as well. So I usually send it to Excel. So.
I will agree with that. That is something that I used a lot with the reports, especially in QuickBooks Online's infancy. It did not
Mhm.
have a lot of reports. What they have now is a lot more compared to what they had initially.
Yes.
And exporting to Excel, I agree, was your friend. That was the way to get a custom report that you wanted that was going to be something close to what you need.
Mhm.
One thing I'll mention, this here, I like to show non-zero columns and non-zero rows. So anything that's got zeros in it is going to, and I have a feeling this one will go away here in just a minute. And I hit run report. Well, maybe not. Non-zero rows, non-zero columns. Display columns by class. I don't know why I didn't take that out of there, but it should have. But in any event, it should, I always change that on my reports. I don't want to see zeros in my reports. Some things like this is a parent and these are subclasses, you're always going to have that there on the main account where it has sub accounts underneath. All right, so exporting out to Excel, super easy. You can email out of this program quick. I mean, simply click on it. And if you hit email, it'll do everything you need to do. I don't want to try to do it from here right now.
So it probably won't even let you.
Yeah, probably not. But if I go here to this little huge-ma-bobber, export
That's a
to
technical
Excel,
term.
huge-ma-bobber, export to Excel or export to PDF. You can do either one. Export to Excel because you can further manipulate, clean it up, get rid of things you don't want, rename things. So that's your friend. And if I come down, it is on my toolbar below. Maybe not. Yeah, it did not open. I have
Did it
to-
open on a different window?
That's what I'm looking for. Let me see if it'll do it now. I had something else in Excel open. But if I come here, export to Excel,
It's down at the bottom on your downloads bar.
oh, bejeebies, here we go. It's coming up on my other screen. I'll pull it over for you. It's got to open first. Here we go. So there we go. There's the report and it doesn't have any information in it.
What?
It's because, well, if I do enable editing, it probably will. Yeah, there you go. Now you've got that report. You can take out, you can modify, you can change whatever you need to change for whatever reason, but you can come in and manipulate this a little bit further. Change your headings, get rid of some columns or get rid of rows. So just keep that in mind that Excel, you can really do a lot of different things in here. I use that when I'm working on budgets. I will print out the last 3 years of P&L, export that out to Excel, add myself a column to average the last 3 years in expenses, and then put another column in that I can plug budget numbers in, you know, as we're working through the budget. So from that regard, this is a nice feature. So
Something else I just thought of is the My Accountant, where they can upload documents for their
Yes.
accountant.
good idea. So you do have the opportunity to share documents with your accountant. Now you can invite an accountant user, such as SEK, to your file without taking up any of your paid users. So I think QuickBooks Essentials comes with 3 users and up to 2 accountant users. but you're not paying for the accountant users. QuickBooks Plus is 5 users and 2 accountant users, and the QuickBooks Online Advanced is up to 25.
Oh, it's 25. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow.
So, but down here under my accountant, once you have an accountant invited, this gives you a place where you can communicate back and forth with your accountant. You can also, we can request documents from you. Something else you can do is upload documents like bank statements that we need at the end of the year, or copies of invoices. Upload that into QuickBooks up in our accountant center, and it's there for us to take a look at. I have a couple clients that use that feature, and that is really, really nice. And it saves you some time as well. So, any other questions? You guys have been really, really quiet this session, but I tried to hit on everything that all the questions you had submitted. Also touch on the banking, which I think is as I had mentioned, is huge. But if you have any other questions right now, you can put them out there. If you want to unmute yourself and ask a question, please feel free to do so.
Yeah, I do have a quick question. You had mentioned at the beginning about the budget tool. So I've been using QuickBooks just for a short time now, and I'm kind of doing the accounting kind of pretty much the way you've been saying it, but I don't have a good budget set up in QuickBooks. Could you touch on that just briefly?
Sure. So I guess it depends on how you want to budget. If you have an idea of what you're doing. So when you go in, I think you have to turn on, actually, no, I can come in here to budgeting and click on that. And it's going to say add our first budget. What I like to do, and I'm going to see what it's going to give me here. Let me close these out. I'm not going to close them. Anyway, I can come up here and do $2022 budget. Let's see what this pre-filled data does. So what it's going to do is it can take my actual, data from 2021, pull that in, and then I can go in and manipulate it from there. So if I hit,
Yeah, that's perfect.
yeah, I know it had it in QuickBooks Desktop, but I have not done that in here before. So if I hit create budget, okay, there's nothing in there. One of the things you can do, click copy to copy the value across in the row. So if I type 10 in here and hit that little arrow, it'll copy it all the way across. If there was data in here for the prior year, it would have pulled it in and you would have had all that. Then you can come in and literally manipulate and change. One thing I like is you can see the highs and lows on your income, or where your expenses are high and low, and base your budget on that actual data. You can change it if you need to, but at least you're able to see those fluctuations. Does that help?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Bonnie, there was another question that came in. In the chart of accounts, is there a way to move the lines?
Not that I'm aware of. So my recommendation with this, and I'm right there with you on it, I do like to go in and see my chart of accounts in a specific order. And I'm not aware of any way that you can, like, you can't click on this and drag it down or move them in an order that you want them to. My recommendation for that is to assign account numbers. That is the only way to get around it. I mean, typically chart of accounts, your 100s are your assets, your 200s are your liabilities, 300s are equity, 400s are income, 500s are cost of goods, And everything after that is expenses. So I would come in here, you can turn on the numbers in your chart of accounts, I believe, up underneath account and settings. And it will let you, I'm pretty sure there's a place in here under advanced. Okay. Enable account numbers right here under the chart of accounts. And we can just turn that on and hit save. And hit done. And now when we go back to our chart of accounts, if I was to come up here and hit new, well, let me come in here. Let me edit it. There's your account number field. So I think once we put the first one in, bear with me here just a minute. We click the number. Now I believe, nope, it's not going to let you do it. Or it's not going to let me do it in this file, but I was pretty sure you could click down and edit each one there and put your account number in, but it doesn't look like it's going to like that too much. Anyway, that would be the way to get it in an order that you want to see it in. I don't have a better answer for you on that. Yeah, I don't think people understand how big of a deal that is, especially if you've got a little OCD going on. So, oh, wait a minute. No, you can make them inactive as a batch, but you can't go back in and assign account numbers to them in the back. So, all right, folks, we are out of time. We are 2 minutes over.